Hi, I'm Keith Graham from the School of Teacher Education at National Taiwan Normal University. Welcome to my office hours. Recently, one of my students asked whether or not they should force their students to speak English in their bilingual class. On the surface, this question has a fairly straightforward answer. No, you should not force your students to use English in your class. In fact, the Ministry of Education has advised teachers against forcing English in their classes. But beyond policy, we really shouldn't be forcing our students to do anything. I hope I'm not being overly semantic, but our job as teachers is not to force our students to do things. It's to encourage them to do things for their own benefit, even if they don't necessarily want to. And more often than not, our students won't want to speak English. So, how do we encourage but not force? Put simply, we create a need for English. A need can be any activity that requires English to complete. An overly simplistic example would be a classroom routine where students say good morning to the teacher to receive the worksheet for the day. Students would know that to get a grade in the class, they need the worksheet. And to get the worksheet, they need to greet the teacher in English. Well, please don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily recommending this specific activity. I present it as the simplest example of a need to use English in a bilingual class. Now, the natural follow-up question may be, well, what if students still don't respond? Should I just give up or should I force them? Neither is particularly ideal. What I would recommend instead is to reflect on why a student isn't responding to the need you have set up. Jacqueline Eccles developed the expectancy value theory, which I believe can help with this reflection. In its simplest form, expectancy means a student's expectations for success. Or in other words, when a student views the activity as something they can be successful in. If the student does not believe they can be successful, then they are likely to reject that activity. However, even if they believe they can be successful, students may still not engage unless they also see value. Value can mean a host of things, such as seeing the activity as useful or enjoyable. But more often in school settings, value comes from the student's belief in the importance of doing well in school, which can be supported or hindered by many factors, including peer relationships, teacher-student relationships, attitudes towards the subject matter, or other past experiences in life and school. Going into more detail on expectancy value theory and how it relates to student behavior in schools would take us far outside the scope of this video. But as it relates to today's question, my point is this. If a bilingual teacher creates a need, that is, an activity where English is needed, and the students can successfully achieve that activity alongside a reasonable drive to want to succeed in the classroom, then there should never be any need to force students. I think new bilingual teachers often miss the target with expectancy. They create a need, but not necessarily one where students feel they can be successful. Toward this end, I have three concluding recommendations. First, teachers need to be knowledgeable about the developmental path of foreign languages. Then they need to know where their students are on that developmental path. And then finally, they need to develop bilingual activities with student expectancy and value in mind. If a teacher does these things, it'll put them in a better position to encourage students to use English rather than have to force them to do so. Thank you for attending my office hours. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on this channel, send me an email at kmgraham@ntnu.edu.tw. I'll see you next time.